When my daughter told me to find somewhere else to die, I didn't even argue. I just stood there, numb, staring at the house I'd built over 43 years. The same house she was now claiming as her own. Before continuing, please subscribe and tell me where you're watching this story from, because what I'm about to tell you is still unbelievable. My name is Margaret, and for most of my life I believed that being a good wife and a devoted mother was enough to earn love. But life has a strange way of teaching you who truly stands by you when the world falls apart. It all started a few weeks after my husband, Robert, passed away. 43 years of marriage, gone in a heartbeat when his heart gave out. My daughter, Victoria, arrived the next day, dressed in black silk and crocodile tears, holding my hand like she actually cared. "Mom," she said sweetly, "you shouldn't be in this big house alone. It's too much for you. You need a smaller place, somewhere peaceful." At first, I thought she was being kind, but kindness has a tone, and hers had calculation behind every word. What would you have done if your only child looked at you with pity? Not love? Weeks passed, and Victoria kept visiting, always with her husband, Kevin, and always armed with pamphlets for retirement communities. She'd use that practiced smile and say, "You'll have friends, activities, a safe place." But all I heard was, "You'll have nothing of your own." After Robert's funeral, I felt like a ghost walking through my own home. The scent of his cologne still lingered in the hallway. His slippers were by the bed. I couldn't bear to move anything. Maybe that's why I didn't notice what Victoria was really doing behind the scenes, making plans. Then one morning she arrived unannounced with Kevin and 2 suitcases. I remember the way she looked around the house, not like a daughter visiting her mother, but like a buyer inspecting her new property. "Mom," she said casually, "we've made a decision. Kevin's been promoted and this house is perfect for our family." I blinked. "Our family?" Her expression didn't even flicker. "Actually, according to Dad's will, this house belongs to me. You've been staying here out of kindness, but it's time for you to move on." Those words still echo in my head. Move on. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my chest. I tried to reason with her. "Victoria, that can't be right. Your father, he wouldn't—" She interrupted coldly. "Mom, he trusted me with everything. You never understood money, investments. You were just the wife. Just the wife. I'd given my life to that family, raised her, nursed Robert through illness, managed the home, sacrificed every dream I had, and suddenly, I was just the wife. That night, I packed 2 suitcases and a small box of photos. Kevin carried them to their car like they were garbage bags. Victoria handed me $200 in cash and said, "There's a senior place on Maple Street. Affordable, safe. You'll be fine, affordable." She was inheriting millions, and I was supposed to find somewhere else to die. What would you feel if your own child treated you like an inconvenience? I sat in a cheap motel room, staring at the peeling wallpaper, replaying every word she said. The woman I raised had become a stranger, and the husband I buried had apparently left me nothing. But Robert wasn't a cruel man. He'd been careful, deliberate, meticulous with his affairs. So why would he leave me penniless? The next morning, something inside me shifted. Grief turned into determination. If Victoria had truly taken everything, I needed to know how. I pulled out my old purse, counted the few bills she'd given me, and used the motel Wi-Fi to search for Robert's attorney, Mr. Harrison Fitzgerald, a man I remembered as kind and sharp-minded. If anyone could tell me the truth, it was him, because deep down I could feel it. Something wasn't right, and Victoria had made one mistake. She thought I was too broken to fight back. She was about to learn that even a pawn can become a queen. Don't miss the next part. Margaret visits her late husband's lawyer, and what she discovers about the real will turns her grief into a plan for justice. When I stepped off the bus that morning, clutching my worn handbag, I didn't feel like a 67-year-old widow. I felt like a detective walking into her own life's mystery. Harrison Fitzgerald's law office was tucked inside an old brick building downtown, the kind that smelled faintly of old paper and polish. His secretary looked surprised when I told her my name. "Mrs. Sullivan? Oh, Mr. Fitzgerald has been expecting you for weeks." Weeks? That alone sent a chill down my spine. Harrison came out to greet me, his kind face folding into concern. "Margaret, my dear, I tried calling your house several times, but your daughter said you were traveling." "Traveling?" That's what she told him. My voice trembled. "Mr. Fitzgerald, I need to understand my husband's will. Victoria said Robert left everything to her." He frowned deeply. "That's not possible. Robert's final will was very clear. He led me into his office, a warm space lined with books and quiet truth. As he opened a thick folder, my heart thudded in my chest. I saw Robert's handwriting on the cover. The sight of it almost broke me." Harrison adjusted his glasses. "Your husband's will states that his wife, Margaret Ann Sullivan, inherits the primary residence at 847 Oakwood Drive, along with 70% of all financial assets and investments." I blinked. 70%? He nodded. "That's approximately $23 million. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. 23 million. My husband hadn't betrayed me. My daughter had. Harrison kept reading, his voice steady but tense. "To my daughter, Victoria Sullivan Hayes, I leave $10 million to be held in trust until her 45th birthday, contingent upon her treatment of her mother following my death." I stared at him. "Contingent upon her treatment of me?" He looked up. "Yes. If she fails to treat you with respect and dignity, the inheritance reverts to you." I pressed my hand to my chest. Robert had known. He'd seen the cracks in Victoria long before I did. "Mr. Fitzgerald," I whispered. "She told me I had nothing. She forced me out of my home, gave me $200, and told me to find somewhere to die." His face went red with fury. "Margaret, that's elder abuse and fraud. What she's done is a criminal act. What can I do?" I asked quietly, though a fire was already burning inside me. He reached for the phone. "First, we call the police. Then we contact the banks to freeze every account she's touched. Victoria thinks she's won, but she's about to find out how wrong she is." For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than pain. I felt power. The kind that comes from knowing the truth is finally on your side. What would you do if the person you loved most became your biggest enemy? By the time I left Harrison's office, my tears had dried. The city outside looked sharper, clearer, like the world had tilted back in my favor. Victoria thought I was weak, but she'd underestimated the woman who taught her everything she knew about patience. Because I wasn't planning on revenge. I was planning on justice. That evening, I checked back into the same motel. But this time, I wasn't broken. I was plotting. I sat by the window with a cup of watery coffee, staring at my reflection in the glass. "You're not done yet," I whispered. "Not by a long shot." And somewhere deep down, I knew Victoria's perfect little world. The house, the husband, the fake smile, was about to collapse piece by piece. Because the truth always finds its way home. Don't miss the next part. Margaret and Harrison take the first steps toward exposing Victoria's lies, and the daughter's perfect facade begins to crumble faster than she ever imagined. By the next morning, the wheels of justice had started to turn. Slowly, but deliberately. Harrison had spent the evening making calls, contacting the authorities and sending urgent requests to the bank. The calm, polite lawyer I'd known was gone. In his place stood a man determined to right a wrong. He called me just after breakfast. "Margaret," he said, "I've confirmed it. Victoria presented forged documents at the bank. An older version of your husband's will. She's already transferred some accounts into her name." My heart twisted. "So she really forged everything?" "Yes," Harrison replied grimly. "And her husband, Kevin, may have helped her. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was premeditated fraud. I stared at the coffee cup trembling in my hand. My own daughter forged her father's will. Tell me, what would you do if your child not only betrayed your trust, but your very existence? I can't believe she'd go that far, I whispered. Harrison sighed softly. Grief reveals character, Margaret. Some people break down, others show who they truly are. The line went quiet for a moment before he added, I've contacted Detective Rodriguez. She specializes in financial elder abuse. She'll meet us at my office this afternoon. I hung up numb. Then I looked around the small motel room, my temporary refuge, and realized something powerful. Victoria thought she'd reduced me to nothing, but this tiny space, this moment of solitude, had given me something she could never understand. Clarity. That afternoon I met Detective Rodriguez, a calm, sharp-eyed woman who spoke with quiet authority. She examined the forged papers Victoria had used and frowned. These are highly sophisticated, she said. This wasn't something your daughter printed at home. Someone with professional knowledge helped her. You mean Kevin? I asked. Possibly. He works in finance, correct? He'd have access to resources, even people who could mimic legal documents. The thought made me shiver. Kevin had always been polite, but there was something about his eyes. Calculating. Distant. He treated everyone like a business deal, including his own family. Don't worry, Mrs. Sullivan, the detective said. We've frozen all accounts tied to those documents. By tomorrow, Victoria's credit cards will stop working. Her utilities will flag pending investigation, and the truth will start unraveling. For the first time since Robert's death, I smiled. That evening, as the sun slipped behind the motel curtains, my phone rang. The screen flashed Victoria. My pulse quickened. I hesitated, then answered. Mom? Her voice was unusually tense. There's been a mix-up with the banks. Everything's frozen. They said something about investigations. What's going on? I took a deep breath. Oh, hello, Victoria. I'm sitting with Mr. Fitzgerald right now. Remember him? The lawyer you said handled everything? Silence. Mom, I don't know what you think you're doing. No. I interrupted softly. I know what you were doing. You lied, forged documents, and threw me out of my own home. You told me to find somewhere to die, remember? Her voice faltered. I was protecting you. By stealing from me? I said sharply. You took advantage of a grieving woman and used her trust against her. Mom, please. She whispered, don't involve the police. We can fix this. I paused for a long moment, letting her squirm in her own silence. Oh, sweetheart, I finally said, my voice steady. We already did. That night, Detective Rodriguez filed formal reports. Victoria's accounts were flagged. Her husband's firm received notice of the ongoing fraud investigation. And me? I sat by that motel window again, but this time with peace in my chest. Maybe revenge wasn't loud or dramatic. Maybe it was just quiet justice, served cold, patient, and precise. What do you think? Would you have done the same if it were your daughter? Don't miss the next part. Victoria's life begins to unravel as her lies catch up with her. But when the investigation deepens, a shocking secret about her husband turns the tables again. By the next morning, I didn't need to imagine Victoria's world collapsing. I could hear it. My phone rang 3 times before I picked up. Each time it was her. The final call came through while I sat in Harrison's office, sipping tea and pretending not to enjoy the quiet satisfaction humming in my chest. Mom, she snapped the moment I answered. The banks are saying all accounts are frozen, even my credit cards. They think there's been fraud. There has been, I replied calmly. Yours. There was a long pause, followed by a shaky laugh. This is ridiculous. I've spoken to lawyers. They said Dad's will. I cut her off. The real will, Victoria. The one your father signed 6 months before he passed away. You wouldn't know about it because you forged an older one. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You talked to Fitzgerald, didn't you? Yes. And Detective Rodriguez. You remember her name. You'll be hearing it again soon. For the first time in her life, my daughter was speechless. She tried again, her tone switching from arrogance to panic. Mom, please, you don't understand. Kevin handled all of this. He said it was just paperwork. I almost laughed at the irony. You mean the man who helped you steal from your own mother? The same one who's about to lose everything he ever worked for. Her breathing quickened. Mom, don't do this. Think about the grandchildren. The audacity of that line stung. She hadn't thought about me when she packed my bags like I was a stranger. I sighed softly. I am thinking about them, Victoria. I want them to know what happens when greed takes over love. Then I hung up. Across the desk, Harrison gave me a small nod of approval. You handled that perfectly, Margaret. Perfect, I whispered. No, Harrison. I handled it like a mother who finally stopped being afraid. That afternoon, Detective Rodriguez arrived again. We traced the forged will, she said, setting down a file. It came from a printing company Kevin's investment firm uses. He may have connections to people who produce fraudulent financial documents. My stomach turned. So Kevin was involved the whole time, she nodded. Almost certainly, but that works in our favor. We're preparing arrest warrants. The thought of my daughter being arrested should have broken me, but instead I felt something else. Clarity. I had spent decades living in other people's shadows, supporting everyone's dreams, but my own. Maybe this was life's brutal way of showing me who I really was when everything was stripped away. That evening, as the sun painted the sky orange, I received another call. This time, it was Kevin. His voice was steady, too steady. Margaret, he began smoothly. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Victoria was emotional after her father's death. We might have made a few mistakes, but dragging this through court won't help anyone. I let him finish before I asked, Kevin, did you help forge the will? He hesitated. Margaret, that's not the point. The point is, that's a yes then, I interrupted. You know, it's fascinating. You two thought I was too weak to fight, too old, too grieving. I took a slow breath. You forgot I was the one who taught Victoria how to play chess. He chuckled nervously. Margaret, you don't want this kind of fight. Oh, I do, I said quietly, because I've already won. When the call ended, I closed my eyes and smiled faintly. Justice wasn't a fantasy anymore. It was in motion. Would you have forgiven them? Or let the law teach them a lesson they'd never forget? Don't miss the next part. Victoria's arrogance turns to desperation as the police close in. But when she makes one last plea to her mother, Margaret's reply changes everything. The following morning felt different. Calm but charged with quiet electricity. The kind that comes right before a storm. I had just finished breakfast when Harrison called. Margaret, he said, his voice steady but serious. Detective Rodriguez got the warrant signed this morning. Victoria and Kevin will both be questioned within the next few hours. I gripped the phone. So it's really happening? Yes, he replied. And this time, they'll have to face the truth. It was surreal, hearing that the daughter I'd raised, the woman I'd once kissed goodnight, would be facing criminal charges. A part of me still wanted to believe this was all a nightmare, but the rest of me knew better. When you've been lied to by your own blood, reality becomes the only thing worth holding on to. By noon, the phone calls began. First Victoria, then Kevin. I didn't answer either one. But the third call, that one I couldn't ignore. It was Detective Rodriguez. Mrs. Sullivan, we have Victoria at the precinct. She's nervous, defensive, trying to blame Kevin. But she's also asking to speak with you. I hesitated. Why me? Maybe she wants to negotiate. Maybe she thinks she can still manipulate you. The detective paused. Do you want to talk to her? For a moment, I thought about it. About the little girl who used to hold my hand while crossing the street. About the woman who, just weeks ago, had thrown me out like a burden. Then I said quietly, "Yes, but on my terms." An hour later, I was sitting in a private interview room at the police station. Victoria sat across from me, her perfect hair disheveled, her designer clothes wrinkled. For the first time, she looked small. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I made a mistake. I was scared. I panicked. Kevin told me—" I stopped her with a raised hand. "No, Victoria. You told yourself. You decided I was weak, that I wouldn't fight, that I didn't deserve what your father left me." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Didn't you?" I asked softly. "You forged documents. You lied to a lawyer. You stole your own mother's home. You planned every step." Her face crumbled. "I thought if I controlled everything, I could protect what Dad built." "Protect it from whom?" I whispered. "From me?" For a moment, silence filled the room, and in that silence I saw it. Not guilt, but fear. Fear of losing her image, her status, her comfort. "Mom," she pleaded, "don't press charges. We can fix this. I'll give you everything back. Please." I leaned forward and met her eyes. "Victoria, I already have everything back. What I want now is for you to face the consequences of what you did." Her face twisted. "You'd really do that to your own daughter?" "I'm not doing this to you," I said. "I'm doing this for me. And for the woman who raised a daughter she thought had a conscience." I stood up slowly. "Goodbye, Victoria." When I walked out, Detective Rodriguez gave me a nod of approval. "You handled that with grace, Mrs. Sullivan." "Grace?" I smiled sadly. "No, I handled it with experience. I've spent my whole life forgiving people who didn't deserve it. This time I'm choosing peace instead of pain." That night I returned to the motel. The air felt lighter, the silence kinder. For the first time in weeks, I slept without nightmares. What would you have done if your child begged for forgiveness after destroying your life? Don't miss the next part. Victoria's arrest makes headlines, but a shocking discovery about her husband, Kevin, reveals that his betrayal runs deeper than anyone imagined. 2 days after Victoria's arrest, the story hit the news. Prominent banker and wife charged in multi-million-dollar inheritance fraud. The headline flashed on every local channel, and just like that, the secret my daughter tried to bury became the story of the week. I watched from my small motel room, wrapped in a thin blanket as the reporters stood outside my old home, my home that Victoria had claimed as hers. Their voices buzzed with excitement, their cameras flashing while I sat silently, processing what my life had become. How strange that peace sometimes wears the face of chaos. That afternoon, Harrison called again. "Margaret, you might want to sit down," he said, his tone careful. My stomach tightened. "What now?" "There's been another development," he replied. "Kevin was arrested this morning. The forged will wasn't his first crime. The police found evidence of fraudulent investment deals tied to his firm. Years' worth." I froze. "You mean he's been doing this before?" "Yes," Harrison said. "He's under investigation for multiple counts of financial fraud. It seems Victoria didn't just marry into wealth, she married into corruption." For a moment, I didn't know what to feel. Anger, relief, pity? Maybe all of it. Because the man who helped steal my life had already been stealing from others long before me. That evening, I got another call, this time from Kevin himself. His number showed up as unknown, but I recognized the voice immediately. "Margaret," he said calmly. "I think we can settle this without dragging everyone through a long trial." I almost laughed. "Settle? You mean after you forged documents, laundered money, and threw me out of my own home?" "Listen," he continued smoothly. "Victoria's emotional. She made poor choices, but I can make this go away. We'll return the assets. You'll get your house, your accounts, everything. All I ask is that you tell the police you misunderstood the situation." I felt something inside me snap. Not anger this time, but certainty. "Kevin," I said quietly, You've lied your entire life. You lie so easily that you've started believing yourself. But this time, you picked the wrong woman to manipulate," he sighed. "You're making a mistake, Margaret. You don't understand the people you're dealing with." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I replied. "You underestimated a woman who has nothing left to lose." He didn't answer, and that silence was louder than any threat. After I hung up, I sat by the window again, the same spot where I'd once cried, feeling powerless. But that night I didn't cry. I smiled. What would you do if the people who betrayed you were finally exposed for who they truly are? The next morning, Harrison called again. The detective says they've traced several of Kevin's fraudulent accounts. He's facing multiple federal charges, and since Victoria's name appears on one of them, she'll be facing additional penalties too. I took a deep breath. "So, it's over?" "For them, yes," Harrison said. "For you, it's just beginning. The assets are yours again, Margaret. The house, the accounts, the inheritance. It's all coming back." It took me a moment to respond. After weeks of humiliation, loneliness, and heartbreak, those words felt unreal. But then it hit me. Everything Victoria stole, I was about to reclaim. Still, beneath the relief, something deeper stirred. A question that wouldn't leave my mind. What if there was more to Robert's will than even I knew? Harrison had said Robert updated it 6 months before his death. But what if he'd left something else behind? A letter, a message, a reason he knew Victoria would turn out this way. And as strange as it sounded, I couldn't shake the feeling that my husband had been hiding something far bigger than family money. What if the truth about Robert's fortune wasn't what it seemed, and the inheritance that destroyed my family was built on a secret my husband never meant for me to find? Don't miss the next part. Margaret returns to her home, only to uncover a shocking clue in Robert's old study. Something that changes everything she thought she knew about her marriage and her husband's past. When I walked back into my home for the first time in weeks, I expected to feel anger, but what I felt was silence, the kind of silence that comes after a storm. The room smelled faintly of Victoria's perfume, sharp, artificial, and out of place. There were traces of her everywhere. Her designer scarves thrown carelessly on the couch, an expensive candle still burning in the kitchen. She had lived here like it already belonged to her. But this house had memories older than her greed. I touched the hallway wall where Robert and I had marked Victoria's height when she was a child. Each line still carried a date and a small scribbled heart beside it. For a moment, I closed my eyes and whispered, "Robert, what did you see coming that I didn't?" Because deep down I knew. He must have known something. That evening, Harrison dropped by with a folder full of documents. "All accounts are officially in your name again," he said, smiling. "And the house deed is reinstated. It's yours, Margaret. Completely." I looked around the house slowly, taking in every corner. "It feels different," I said quietly, "almost like it's waiting to tell me something." He raised an eyebrow. "Tell you something?" "I don't know," I admitted. Robert was secretive near the end. He spent hours in his study before he passed. He said he was reorganizing papers, but you think it was more than that?" I nodded. "Yes." After he left, curiosity got the better of me. I walked into Robert's study, a room I'd avoided for weeks. The heavy oak desk was just as he'd left it. Everything was perfectly aligned, the papers stacked neatly, pens arranged in a straight line. But when I pulled open the bottom drawer, I found something odd. A small locked box, the kind Robert never mentioned before. The key wasn't in the drawer, but a familiar habit came back to me. Robert always kept spares in the clock above his desk. I reached up, opened the back panel, and there it was. The lock clicked open with a soft snap. Inside, I found a flash drive, a sealed envelope with my name on it, and a letter titled, "In case the unthinkable happens." My heart pounded as I opened the letter. "Margaret, If you're reading this, it means my fears came true. I've tried to protect you and Victoria from the consequences of my decisions. But not everything I built was clean. If she ever turns against you, it's because of the inheritance. Money I should have walked away from years ago. I froze. What did he mean, not clean? The letter continued. There are files on the drive. If you decide to open them, be prepared. The truth may cost you peace, but it will give you power. Power. That word lingered like smoke in the room. What would you do if you discovered your late husband might have hidden a secret that could change everything? I set the letter down, my hands shaking. The flash drive felt heavy in my palm. Not because of its size, but because of the weight of what it could reveal. For a moment, I considered calling Harrison, but something told me this wasn't for lawyers. This was personal. I plugged the drive into Robert's old computer. It whirred to life, slow but steady, like an old heart remembering how to beat. On the screen, a single folder appeared. Sullivan Holdings. Private. Inside were hundreds of files, transactions, offshore accounts, mysterious payments, and one labeled Torino. As I clicked on it, my pulse quickened. The folder contained documents with names, codes, and company transfers I didn't recognize. And then I saw it. One note in Robert's handwriting scanned into a file. Final report for FBI. Operation Torino. FBI. My husband wasn't just running a business. He was hiding something far more dangerous. What if Robert's business empire wasn't a crime, but a cover? And the truth he left behind could either destroy Margaret or save her life. Don't miss the next part. Margaret digs deeper into her husband's secret files and discovers he wasn't the man she thought he was. But what she uncovers next ties her daughter's crimes to something far bigger than family greed. The cursor blinked on Robert's computer screen, daring me to open the next file. I hesitated, my breath catching. Operation Torino. Even the name sounded dangerous. I clicked it. The document opened into pages of financial transfers. Accounts connected to companies I'd never heard of. Many of them overseas. The dates stretched back more than a decade. Notes appeared beside them, all in Robert's handwriting. Payment to maintain cover. Informant contact. FBI coordination only. My heart pounded. Informant? I scrolled further down. A scanned letter from someone named Agent Sarah Martinez appeared, dated nearly 12 years ago. Mr. Sullivan, your cooperation with the Bureau remains vital. Continue documenting all transactions for Operation Torino. Your safety remains our priority. I leaned back in shock. Robert wasn't laundering money for criminals. He was working with the FBI. For a long moment, I couldn't move. My husband, the man I'd thought lived an ordinary businessman's life, had spent 12 years pretending to be a criminal to expose real ones. And I never knew. Robert, I whispered into the empty room. What were you protecting me from? But the answer came silently through every file I opened. He was protecting us both. Just then my phone rang. It was Harrison. Margaret, he said, his tone serious. Detective Rodriguez just called. Kevin's lawyers are threatening to leak something about Robert's business dealings to weaken your case. They claim he was involved in money laundering. My hand trembled. They're wrong, I said. He wasn't laundering for himself. He was doing it for the FBI. There was a pause on the line. Are you certain? Yes, I said firmly. I'm looking at the documents right now. Margaret, Harrison said carefully. If that's true, you need to take this straight to the authorities. That information is dangerous. I looked around Robert's study, at the locked drawers, the hidden files, the years of secrecy. Dangerous, I murmured. It already is. As soon as I hung up, I heard another sound. A soft knock at the door. My pulse spiked. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peeked through the peephole. A woman stood on my porch. Professional, mid-30s, holding an ID badge. Mrs. Sullivan. she called gently. "I'm Special Agent Sarah Martinez with the FBI. May I come in?" The name hit me like lightning. She stepped inside, her presence calm but commanding. "We've been monitoring a series of recent activities connected to your late husband's accounts. When his name resurfaced after your daughter's fraud investigation, we traced it back here." "So it's true?" I asked softly. "He was one of you?" Agent Martinez nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Robert Sullivan worked undercover with us for over a decade. He helped bring down several major crime networks, including one called the Torino Organization." I sank into a chair, the reality washing over me. "He never told me?" "For your safety," she said. "Robert's cover was so deep that even local agents didn't know. But he left behind sensitive files, and we need to know exactly what you've seen." I pointed to the screen. "Everything's here. And there's something else. Kevin and Victoria's lawyers were going to use these records to blackmail me. They think Robert was part of the crimes." Agent Martinez's expression hardened. "That explains the leaks we've been tracking. They had no idea your husband was actually working for us. Their threats just made them complicit in federal obstruction." My heart raced. "What happens now?" "Now," she said calmly. "We make sure justice reaches the right people." For the first time in months, I felt a strange kind of pride. My husband hadn't betrayed me. He'd sacrificed his peace to protect our family, even if our daughter didn't deserve it. But as Agent Martinez copied the files onto her laptop, she glanced at me. "Mrs. Sullivan, there's something else you need to know. Robert's work might not have ended with him." What if Robert's undercover operation didn't die with him, and someone out there still believes Margaret knows secrets worth killing for? Don't miss the next part. The FBI reveals the shocking truth behind Robert's final mission, and Margaret learns her husband's death might not have been as natural as she once believed. Agent Martinez sat across from me, the faint hum of Robert's old desktop filling the silence between us. She studied me carefully, her eyes calm but alert. The look of someone who knew there was more to this story than I realized. "Mrs. Sullivan," she began, "I need you to think carefully. Before your husband died, did he ever mention feeling watched or threatened?" Her question hit like a stone in my chest. I remembered Robert's late-night calls, the way he'd sometimes check the locks twice, and how he'd stare out the window before bed, as if searching for something. Back then, I thought it was stress, the burden of running a large company. But now, yes, I whispered. "He said there were people he didn't trust. I thought he meant business rivals. Was it the Torino family?" Martinez nodded slowly. "Robert was our key informant in that case. He helped us expose one of the largest financial crime networks in the country. But there's something you should know. His death happened just weeks before a major handover of evidence." I froze. "You mean his heart attack?" She looked at me sadly. The autopsy ruled it natural. But some internal files suggested there were inconsistencies, timing issues, medication levels that didn't match prescriptions. My hands trembled. "You're saying he might have been murdered?" "It's a possibility," she said softly. "And whoever did it may still be watching to make sure no loose ends remain." For a moment, the room tilted. My husband hadn't just died. He might have been silenced. I glanced toward the computer screen still glowing with his secret files. And now that I've opened this, that means I'm one of those loose ends. Martinez didn't deny it. She leaned forward. "That's why we need your cooperation. We'll place protection around the house and start monitoring communications. But Margaret, you have to trust me completely, from this point on." I looked her straight in the eye. "After everything I've seen, Agent Martinez, you're the first person I actually can trust." She gave a faint smile. "That's good, because the next few days might get complicated." As she packed up the evidence, I asked the question that had been burning in my chest. If Robert was helping the FBI, why didn't anyone tell me after his death? She sighed. "Because the operation was still active. And because we didn't know who could be trusted, including people in your family. If Robert suspected his daughter's husband was connected to financial crimes, that could explain everything. My blood ran cold. You think Kevin had something to do with Robert's death? It's possible, she admitted. Kevin's firm had multiple transactions linked to Torino accounts, and now that his fraud has been exposed, his connections are starting to crumble. But when people like him feel cornered, they do desperate things. I looked out the window, the afternoon sunlight glinting off the mailbox where I'd once received love letters from Robert. It felt like the ghosts of my past were lining up outside, waiting to be heard. What would you do if you learned your husband's death might have been murder, and the killer could be someone sitting across your family dinner table? That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me flinch. The ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, even the faint rustle of wind outside the curtains. Robert's letter lay open on my nightstand. His handwriting was steady, deliberate. If the past ever comes for you, don't run from it. Face it, Margaret. You're stronger than you think. Those words replayed in my mind like a heartbeat, and by the time dawn broke, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to hide. I was going to find out who killed my husband, and why. What if the man who helped destroy Margaret's life wasn't just a greedy son-in-law, but the very person responsible for her husband's death? Don't miss the next part. Margaret uncovers shocking connections between Kevin and the people who wanted Robert dead. But as the FBI closes in, someone unexpected shows up at her door. And this time, they're not here to talk. Take a second to like and subscribe, and press the bell icon to stay with me for more stories like this one. The next morning, a car parked outside my house. Black, unmarked and silent. Agent Martinez had kept her promise. 2 federal officers now watched the street discreetly, and I'd been advised not to leave the house unless absolutely necessary. But something inside me refused to sit still. I needed answers. By noon, Harrison called. Margaret, there's something you should hear before the FBI releases it publicly. Kevin's company was laundering money for the Torino group. He wasn't just skimming profits. He was handling their shell accounts. And Robert was the one who found out. My heart clenched. You mean Kevin knew Robert was investigating him? Yes, Harrison replied grimly. And we think that's what got your husband killed. For a long moment I couldn't speak. The man who had married my daughter, the man who sat at my dinner table and called me Mom, had murdered my husband to protect himself. I whispered, so all this time, Victoria wasn't just greedy. She was living with the man who killed her father. Unknowingly, Harrison said softly, but when she joined his schemes, she became part of the same darkness. That evening, as rain poured against the windows, I sat in Robert's study again. His scent still lingered faintly in the air, old books and cedarwood. The flash drive sat on the desk, now copied by the FBI. I ran my fingers over it one last time. What would you do? I murmured aloud. If the person you loved most had hidden a truth that could destroy your family? My voice trembled. Would you still fight for justice, or would you let it go? The phone rang, startling me. It was Agent Martinez. Mrs. Sullivan, Kevin has requested to meet you. He says he wants to talk before the case moves forward. My pulse quickened. Meet me? After everything he's done? He claims he has information about Robert's final investigation. Something not in the files, she explained. We'll be there for security, but it's your choice. I closed my eyes. Every instinct screamed to say no. But another part of me, the one that had faced betrayal and loss, whispered, face him. I'll do it, I said quietly. The meeting took place that evening in a secured conference room at the precinct. Kevin looked nothing like the confident man I once knew. His suit was wrinkled, his face pale, his eyes darting nervously around the room. Margaret, he began, his voice low. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Robert found things he shouldn't have. I tried to warn him. Warn him? I repeated bitterly. You killed him. His jaw tightened. No, I didn't touch him. I only reported to Torino that Robert was investigating us. They handled the rest. My blood ran cold. You gave them his name. Kevin's eyes glistened. I didn't know they'd actually do it. I thought they'd scare him, make him stop. I swear I didn't. I stood up, shaking with rage. You thought betrayal had boundaries? You thought playing with people's lives could end on your terms? Agent Martinez stepped in calmly. Mr. Turner, that confession is on record. Kevin froze, realizing what he'd just said. I turned to leave, but before walking out, I looked him in the eye. You took everything from me, Kevin. My husband, my home, my peace. But what you'll never understand is that you've already lost something far greater. Your soul. That night I stood outside under the rain, breathing in the storm. For the first time since Robert's death, I felt something close to freedom. Justice wasn't just coming. It had already arrived. But as I stepped back inside, my phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. One sentence. You opened the wrong file, Margaret. My blood turned to ice. What if Robert's death was only the beginning? And the secret he left behind wasn't meant for the FBI, but for Margaret herself? Don't miss the next part. Margaret realizes someone is still watching her. The files her husband left contain one final clue. A message meant only for her. And it could reveal who's truly behind everything. The message glowed on my phone screen like a threat carved in light. You opened the wrong file, Margaret. I stared at it for several seconds, my heartbeat drumming in my ears. No number, no name, just those words. My first instinct was to call Agent Martinez, but something stopped me. Not fear, but a strange certainty that whoever sent it wanted me to react, to panic, to run. Instead, I walked back into Robert's study, shut the door behind me, and stared at the computer still open on the desk. The cursor blinked over the folder labeled Sullivan Holdings. Private. Had I missed something? I clicked through each file again. The financial documents, the scanned FBI letters, the evidence trails. All of it leading to Operation Torino. But then, near the bottom, I noticed a smaller folder, hidden behind the main list. Its name was For Margaret Only. My breath caught. I hesitated, then clicked. Inside was a single video file titled, If You're Seeing This. The screen flickered, and Robert's face appeared. Older, tired, but filled with that same calm determination I'd fallen in love with decades ago. Margaret, he began, his voice steady. If you've reached this point, it means everything I feared has happened. You've been dragged into something I tried my best to shield you from. Tears welled in my eyes as I whispered. Oh, Robert, he continued. You must know the truth. The Torino case wasn't just about fraud. It reached people in power, people I once trusted. If they find out you have this information, they'll come for you next. He paused, looking straight into the camera. Don't go to the FBI with everything. Not yet. There's someone inside working for them. Someone feeding information to Torino. My blood froze. Someone inside the FBI? Robert leaned closer. There's one person you can trust. Her name is Sarah Martinez. If she's with you, you're safe. But if anyone else contacts you pretending to help, don't believe them. My breath hitched. Agent Martinez. She was the one who found me. The one who'd told me the truth. But why had Robert said, if she's with you? As if even that wasn't certain. What would you do? I whispered, staring at the frozen frame of his face. If the only person you trusted might also be lying. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This time from a blocked number. The woman you think protects you is the reason your husband's dead. I dropped the phone. My whole body trembled. Could it be true? Could Agent Martinez, the woman who swore to keep me safe, be the traitor Robert warned about? Just then, headlights appeared outside the window. A car stopped in front of the house. I moved closer to the curtain, heart pounding. It was her, Agent Martinez. She stepped out alone, her coat soaked in rain. Something about the way she looked around, cautious, scanning the shadows, made my chest tighten. Was she protecting me? Or making sure I was still here? I picked up the phone but didn't dial. I just stood there, frozen between fear and faith. The knock came next. 3 soft taps on the door. "Mrs. Sullivan?" Her voice called gently. "It's Sarah. We need to talk." My hand hovered over the doorknob. If I opened that door, I might find safety. Or the truth Robert died trying to protect. What would you do if the one person who promised to protect you might be the same person who betrayed your husband? Was Agent Martinez truly here to protect Margaret? Or to finish what Robert's killer started? Don't miss the next part. Margaret finally confronts Agent Martinez, but the truth she learns about her husband's death will shatter everything she thought she knew about loyalty, love, and justice. I stood frozen at the door, Robert's voice still echoing in my head. "If she's with you, you're safe. But if anyone else contacts you pretending to help, don't believe them." And now, she was here. Agent Martinez's knock came again. 3 careful taps. "Mrs. Sullivan, please open up. It's urgent." My hand hovered over the doorknob, trembling. "Why now?" I whispered under my breath. "Why come at night?" The rain fell harder, streaking the window like tears on glass. I finally called through the door, my voice steady but cautious. "How do I know it's really you, Agent Martinez?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Because your husband told me that if you ever doubted me, I should say this. You used to hide love notes in the second drawer of his desk." My heart jumped. Only Robert and I knew that. Slowly I unlocked the door. She stepped in, dripping rainwater, her face drawn and pale. "We need to move fast," she said. "Someone's compromised the case. The files you opened, they triggered an alert in an old Torino network." I swallowed hard. So that message on my phone. "Wasn't you?" She shook her head. "No. Whoever sent it knows you accessed Robert's private folder. That means they're watching your communications." Her voice was calm, but her eyes darted toward the dark window. "We don't have much time." I could feel my pulse in my throat. "You told me everything was secure." "It was," she said firmly. "Until tonight. Someone inside the bureau leaked information about you. And about me." The words hit like thunder. "You mean there's still a mole?" "Yes. And I think it's someone high up," she said, lowering her voice. "But there's something you need to see first." She pulled out a small USB drive from her coat pocket. This was recovered from Kevin's laptop. "It's a recording." I hesitated. "What kind of recording?" She plugged it into Robert's computer, and a video appeared. Kevin sat in a dark room talking on the phone. His face was tense, voice hushed but clear. "Yeah," he said into the phone. "Sullivan's getting too close. If he keeps pushing, I'll tell her to make the call." A male voice on the other end replied faintly. "You sure she'll do it?" Kevin laughed softly. "She doesn't even know who she's working for. She thinks she's helping the bureau." Martinez's face hardened. "Pause it there." I froze the screen. Who was he talking about?" She took a deep breath. "We're not sure. But whoever that she is, she played both sides." I turned to her, my voice barely a whisper. "You think that woman was me?" She shook her head. "No, it was someone inside the bureau. Someone who knew about Robert's operation and leaked it to Torino. That's how they found him." I stared at Kevin's frozen face on the screen. "He killed Robert, but he wasn't alone." Martinez nodded. "Exactly. And I think that same person is the one who just texted you." A sharp sound broke the air, the shattering of glass. We both ducked as the living room window exploded inward. A bullet hit the wall inches from where I'd been standing. "Get down," Martinez shouted, pulling her weapon. "They found us!" My heart pounded as sirens wailed in the distance. Somewhere outside, footsteps echoed, retreating fast into the storm. Martinez crouched by the window, scanning the dark. "They wanted to scare you," she said. "But now we know the truth. Someone's still out there cleaning up unfinished business." I stared at the broken window, the rain pooling on the floor. Robert died trying to expose them, and now they're coming for me. What if the same person who helped kill Robert is still inside the FBI, and Margaret is the only one who can expose them before it's too late? Take a second to like and subscribe, and press the bell icon to stay with me for more stories like this one. The night the gunfire shattered my window, something inside me changed forever. Fear didn't live in me anymore. Only purpose. By sunrise, the police had sealed off the property. Agent Martinez stayed close, scanning every call, every shadow, her expression carved from steel. Yet I could see the doubt flicker in her eyes. She was shaken. "Whoever's behind this," she said quietly, "is powerful, but we'll find them." I looked at the shattered glass glinting in the morning light. We have to do more than find them, Sarah. We have to finish what Robert started. That afternoon, we met with Harrison at a secure government office. The FBI had retrieved every file from Robert's hard drive. Most confirmed what we already knew. The Torino organization had infiltrated several financial institutions, but one document stood out, an internal memo with a bureau seal. Martinez's jaw tightened as she read it. This came from inside. The signature at the bottom froze her mid-sentence. I leaned closer. My blood ran cold. "It's signed by Director Hale," she whispered. He was my superior. The betrayal in her voice broke something inside me. Harrison looked up grimly. "If that's true, your husband wasn't just killed by criminals. He was silenced by someone within the system meant to protect him." I stared at the document, feeling the weight of every lie, every sleepless night. Then that's where it ends, with him. That evening, Martinez arranged a private meeting with the director, under the guise of handing over final evidence. But it wasn't just a meeting. It was a trap, and for once I wasn't the prey. When we entered the office, Director Hale greeted us with a cold smile. "Agent Martinez, Mrs. Sullivan, I hear you've both been busy digging through old ghosts." Martinez stood tall. "Old ghosts don't break into homes or send threats." He smirked. "You're reaching, Sarah. You've been chasing shadows ever since Sullivan's death. I told the Bureau to close the file for a reason." My hands clenched. "Because you helped kill him." The room went silent. Hale's eyes darkened. "You should be careful what you accuse people of, Mrs. Sullivan." But before he could continue, Martinez placed a recorder on the table, already blinking red. "This conversation is being transmitted live," she said calmly. "To the Deputy Director's office." Hale froze. I stepped forward, voice steady. "You ruined lives, Director. My husband's, my daughter's, mine. All to protect your dirty deals. But you forgot one thing. I learned from the man you killed. I don't run from the truth." His mask cracked. "You don't know who you're dealing with. I do." I cut in. "A coward hiding behind power." He lunged toward the recorder, but the door burst open. Federal agents poured in, weapons drawn. Within seconds, Director Hale was on his knees, wrists cuffed. Martinez exhaled shakily. "It's over." But as I watched him being led away, I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "It's finally beginning." Days later, the world learned the truth. News headlines read, "FBI Director Arrested in National Corruption Scandal. Undercover Operation Exposed After Widow Reveals Secret Files." Robert's name was cleared. His work completed, and Victoria? She was released on bail but vanished quietly from the headlines. I heard she moved to another state, away from the spotlight, away from everything she destroyed. I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her. One evening, as the sun set behind our rebuilt home, I sat by the same window where the bullet once struck. The air was peaceful again. I whispered softly. We did it, Robert. A gentle breeze stirred the curtains, and for the first time I felt him there. Not in sorrow, but in peace. What would you do if life tried to break you? But instead, it made you stronger? Because sometimes the people who take everything from us are the ones who unknowingly give us something greater, the courage to rise again. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. Take a second to like and subscribe, and press the bell icon to stay with me for more stories like this one. Sometimes life takes turns we never expect. Every person in this story carried their own pain, their own choices, and their own consequences. Maybe you saw yourself in one of them. Or maybe it reminded you of someone you once knew. What do you think happened next? What would you have done if you were in their place? If you have any questions about what happened to the other characters, or if you want me to share more about them, just comment below. I read every message you leave, and your thoughts truly mean a lot to me. And if this story touched your heart, inspired you, or even made you think differently, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep sharing stories that move people, open minds, and remind us we're all human at the end of the day. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for watching, for feeling, and for being part of this journey. More powerful stories are coming soon. Stay tuned and stay kind.